Hey, Polly.
Hey Greg, how are you?
All right. Here we are.
Here we are.
Another podcast.
Yes, a sweltering day.
It's hot.
We went we went from cold and dreary to sweltering, but
but I won't complain.
no.
Because at any time this air conditioner can come on and make it Siberian. So I am doing all right. But today we have Meredith Correa from Tides Family Services on.
Oh, I'm excited to hear more about tides.
Yeah,
I hear their name a lot, but I'm not exactly sure what they do.
it's I came across one of their services at the community council meetings
Yeah,
and wanted to hear more. Reached out. She said she would love to be on our podcast. So today on Totally Preventable, that's who we are.
awesome.
All right. So without further ado, joining us today on the Totally Preventable podcast, we have Meredith Correa, the Director of Intake and Community Relations at Tides Family Services. Meredith, how are you doing today?
Hi, I'm doing well. Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Our pleasure. Our pleasure. To just start off the podcast as we normally do, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got to where you are today?
Sure. So I have been at Tides Family Services. I'm entering my 21st year. This has been my only job since I graduated college. So when I first graduated, I started in an entry-level position. I was doing intensive case management and supervision and monitoring of clients that were DCYF and court involved. And I loved it. And I eventually stayed and moved into other positions. I became a supervisor, I became a director, and I've been here ever since. So I've worked in pretty much all of the programs that we have. My main job right now is overseeing our intake department, all referrals from our DCYF funded programming, and I'm also the agency representative to Family Court and DCYF. So we work very closely with them. So I spend a lot of time in court with our families and also collaborating with the department, which is our major partner and funding source.
Ah, sounds like you are busy.
Yes.
I feel like it says a lot about an organization when they have staff members that have been there for a long time, you
Yes.
know.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a few of us that have been here for a really long time. The agency definitely promotes growth from within, and there's a lot of opportunities for professional development. So a lot of us have been here for a while.
That's awesome.
Very key.
Yeah.
So, we read that you service vulnerable youth and families.
Yes.
Could you tell us what that means and what kind of challenges those
Mhm.
that a vulnerable family is facing?
Sure. So vulnerable youth and families means that they are at risk for involvement with the child welfare system. So they're either at high risk to become involved with DCYF or the court system, or they're already involved, either due to abuse, neglect, unmet behavioral or mental health needs. It can also mean that they're vulnerable because they're unable to access supports on their own. So either due to extensive wait lists, lack of transportation, they could be uninsured, or their needs sort of supersede what the outpatient model provides. They need something that's sort of custom tailored to them, something more intensive than just once a week. So that's how Tides would define vulnerable families.
The wait list is always the thing that gets me the most.
There seems to be a
Yes.
list for all sorts of services these days.
Yeah. Yeah. And you
Yes.
get people who finally want to go ahead and make that jump, and then they hear, oh, well, this is a 3 week or a 6 month waiting.
Yes.
Like my son just went to get a book for a summer reading program, and he's 13th in line for the same books, even at the library.
No, I believe it's definitely a pervasive problem. I mean, we've seen it, especially since COVID too. The wait lists have really increased, and the need is greater than ever.
Mhm.
So it is definitely something that poses a barrier. But when families are in crisis, they need help. They can't go and sit on a wait list for 2 months. Until then, they need help immediately. So that's we do have a service for families in crisis that I can talk about in a little bit.
Or one quick question to go back, and I should have did this
Sure.
where you're talking a little bit about your job. What kind of, or I can't even, my question is all mixed up in my head now. What does it look like for you when you're in the family court with families? What is your role in that?
Oh, yeah. So my role is to support the families and, sort of advocate on the tide side. So our agenda and role, we're not making recommendation legally or any kind of placement recommendations or anything like that. We're really just supporting the family by going in there and saying, the family's working with us. This is what we're doing to help mitigate some of these risk factors and help them achieve the goals either imposed by the family court or through other avenues. So we're really just reporting out on the tides treatment and just saying, like, this is the service that they're getting. This is what their engagement has looked like. And because that really holds a lot of weight for families who are in the court system, to know that they're cooperating and engaged with a provider is definitely beneficial for DCYF and the court to know. So that's mostly my role when I'm in court, and sometimes, case planning, consultation, and things like that as well.
Wow. Now, what kind of comprehensive and preventative services does Tides Family Services offer to support vulnerable populations, and,
Sure.
and how are they tailored to meet unique needs?
Yep. So we are a statewide provider. We have services that provide treatment to the whole state. All of our services are home-based and community-based, which means that we are going right out to the families in the community and either meeting with them in their home or in an area, in the community where they're comfortable. So the work is, there's an outreach component to all of the services, which means we're going to them and working with them. We have a lot of different services that we offer through DCYF. They provide services that give families intensive clinical work where they have a clinician, a behavioral assistant, and an outreach team that makes a daily in-person contact with them. And the goal of these services, of all of our services, is to keep kids at home successfully. So to keep them in the least restrictive environment in a family setting whenever possible. And then we have, other services that are sort of a lower level to that service that I just described. We have family therapy programs. We have a program specifically for youth who are adjudicated and on parole. It's called our Youth Transition Center. We start working with them while they are in the training school and start seeing them there, doing group work, and they can get to know the staff while they're there. And then when they make the transition back to the community, it's seamless. They already have a provider in place, and we work to get them reintegrated with school, employment. We provide clinical services to them as well. So that's sort of an overview of some of the home-based services that we provide.
Does the family have to be DCYF involved?
So DCYF is our major funding source for these programs. If they are not DCYF involved, there are other avenues where they can access the services. So if they are open to the department in any way, even if it's just, in the CPS unit, if there's an investigation or they have a full open case, they can be referred by their worker. And same thing through family court and truancy court. If they don't have involvement with either of those systems, they can access services through their local FCCP, the Family Care Community Partnership, excuse me, and that is a DCYF diversion service. So all of there's a lead agency for all of the regions. Families can self-refer and just say, I need help and I need services that I'm unable to access on my own or through insurance. And then the FCCP can refer to any DCYF funded service. So that would be sort of like a voluntary route for families who don't have involvement with the department.
All right.
In what ways does Tide Family Services work to preserve and strengthen families and the community?
So I think the major thing that we do that is really important to that is we work with the family as a whole we're not just focused on the individual we get the referral for. So we get a referral that comes in for an identified child, but we work with the whole family, and the intervention is very family focused and family centered. And we're working with them, in the environment where they live, with the people who they live with. And that's how, you're able to make sustainable change when you're working with the whole unit. When kids are taken out of their home and given treatment, and then they return back to the same environment where the work didn't happen with the other people in the home or the other systems, the outcomes tend to be less sustainable. So I think that that's probably the real core tenet to our mission, is working with the family as a whole.
Now, with Tides doing so much, how do you measure the success of your programs or achievements? With Tides doing so much, how do you measure success and your effectiveness in your programs?
So we look at a lot of data points when we're looking at, outcomes, putting together literature for families to kind of explain what our programs do. And also we have to provide data to our funding sources as well. The major data point that we look at is children that remain in the home when treatment closes. So they were not removed from their home. They did not enter like a long-term placement. They didn't enter a long-term hospitalization. And so that is our biggest sort of measure for the agency. In the last quarter, I pulled some of the stats. We had 88% of children that were serviced in our programming that had successful completion. So that means they remained at home. They were at risk to be removed from the home. They remained at home, and they successfully completed their treatment goals that were developed with their team.
Wow.
Do you partner with other organizations in the community to strengthen your services?
We do, yeah. So we have our largest partners are DCYF and Family Court. We also partner with local police departments, and then we also partner with several other community agencies. So Community Care Alliance is a big partnership for us. They provide psychiatry for our programs through the partnership, and we also collaborate with their clinical teams as well if the family has a history working with them, and for continuity of care purposes, that they can transition to Tides and work with their previous clinician. So it just keeps things very seamless for the families. And it's hard. A lot of our families are, they've been through a lot of different kinds of services and a lot of providers. They've sort of run the gamut of the services that are out there. So we try to make it as easy for them as possible if they have a relationship with someone, to be able to keep that relationship. And then we also partner with Family Service of Rhode Island for our Children's Mobile Crisis Program, and Communities for People for our youth development services. So we definitely utilize other people and other agencies in the system to make the services as robust as possible.
Wow. Now, I keep backtracking. It's probably one of my biggest flaws. Now, you just mentioned your data about 88% of
Yes.
your clients have stayed home. Is there
Yep.
you said they have to complete their programming. Is there
Mhm.
a time limit on programming, or is it all individually based?
So most of the programming is individually based. There are certain benchmarks, in treatment. So the authorizations that come from DCYF are generated in 6-month increments. So at the time of referral, we know we're working with them for, 6 months at least, if needed. Some of the families don't even require that 6-month involvement, but a lot of them do and require more than that. So I would say, typical length of stay, and I don't have the data points in front of me, but I would say somewhere between 9 months to a year, probably. So our services are designed to be a little bit longer term than like an insurance-based service, really, so that they can, be stabilized, and so that we can do the work with the families as well.
Wow. So now being there, you said for 20 plus years, 21 years,
Yes. Yep.
sure you've seen a lot of growth. I'm sure you've seen
Yes.
a lot of programs possibly come and go.
Mhm.
What are some innovative programs that Tides has on the horizon?
Sure. So newer programs since, let's say, 2020, we'll use the pandemic as kind of the the point in time. During the pandemic, we were given a grant to start a children's mobile crisis program. And so the thought behind it was that this program would be an intensive, immediate response to children who were in a psychiatric crisis or emergency. So it's an alternative to a hospitalization, an emergency department evaluation, children who are expressing suicidal ideation, self-harm, homicidal ideation, real acute high-end types of behaviors that would otherwise be sent to the hospital. And so we piloted this during the pandemic when the mental health crisis was certainly at a high. And we filled up, I think we had 75 allotted slots to begin with. We filled that up like very quickly. So we were given in 2022, we were given a grant through EOHHS to provide services long term through Children's Mobile Crisis. So that has been extremely successful. Since November of 2022 up until May 2024, 84% of the kids referred were successfully diverted from the hospital. So, and just to give you a context of like what that number looks like, that's over 600 children in the state. So that 84% is 600 kids. So this is a program that doesn't require any DCYF or family court involvement. This is something that parents can refer to if their child is struggling with, acute depression, anxiety, school refusal is a big one that we see. Kids are so anxious that they're unable to attend school. Schools can make referrals, police departments can make referrals, hospital emergency rooms can make referrals. So this is something that spans beyond the DCYF umbrella. So it's been a very successful program and it's grown significantly.
So just to be clear, because we do hear a lot about families on wait lists for kids.
Yes.
A family with no DCYF involvement who's just has some serious concerns about their child's mental health.
Yes.
No matter where they live in Rhode Island can give you a call?
Correct. So there's an on-call line. It's a 24/7 line. They do have to meet the criteria of being in a crisis, but that is pretty, general. There's a lot of it's quite easy to fit into that criteria. They would call, make the referral, and an intake and assessment can be done within a couple of hours. So it's an immediate response time. They're not calling and going on a wait list. It's 30 to 45 days. So it's a stabilization service. We want to get the crisis stabilized, but then the team will work with external collaterals or providers to make the appropriate follow-up referrals. So they're never just closed with nothing. They're either sent to a TIDES program internally, or if they have an outpatient therapist that they want to re-engage with, we make sure that the aftercare plan is solidified before closing out. So sometimes the wait list can become a barrier that way because it is designed to be a short-term program, but we do hang on to the kids until they have something secured.
Wow, that's amazing.
It is, because we've heard from a lot of parents and Greg and I are both parents, and I can't think of anything worse than knowing your child is in crisis and them being on a wait list,
Yes.
That
Right.
sounds like the worst thing ever. So
Yeah.
that's wonderful.
Yeah, so I would say that's probably our biggest sort of innovative program that we've rolled out successfully and continued to expand upon. Coming down the pike, we have an intensive outpatient program that's going to be at our Pawtucket office location. So this is going to be almost like a therapeutic after-school program. So we just got the initial licensure and we're doing some renovations in our Pawtucket office to, facilitate the space. But it will be for kids with co-occurring substance use and mental health needs. They'll come, after school from 3 to 7. They'll do therapeutic recreation. They'll do homework. They'll do therapeutic groups, have food, and that will be sort of part of their treatment plan until we're able to step them down to something less intensive. So that's coming down the pike. We're in the early stages, but it's happening. So we're recruiting for that position now, and I think that will be really exciting. The other thing that that's a newer development is our Nexo clinic. That is a mental health clinic that's also out of our Pawtucket Central Falls office. That is for bilingual families who live in the community, and even beyond the community, but that they have to have a language and cultural need in order to receive the services. So we have a Spanish-speaking psychiatrist who is there. We have bilingual clinicians and director community health workers. So they're able to receive mental health services in the language that they know and prefer, and it's also right within their community. So that's a newer development too, that has been happening, and that also came from our partnership with Community Care Alliance. They helped us start that initiative.
What's your age range for kids?
Yeah. So in the mobile crisis program, the age range is 2 to 21. So it's very broad. I think the youngest that we've ever actually provided service to is probably 4. We've never gotten a referral for a 2-year-old, but that is within the scope of work. And then in our other programs, the DCYF funded services, it's 6 to 18.
Wow.
I like that 18 to 21 age, because I feel like, yeah, they're adults, but they still.
Yeah. And we do have times where we work with kids who are over 18. If they do have DCYF involvement until they're 21, we've done some work with kids who are, sort of in that transitional phase of life. If they have DCYF, or some kids who are on probation until their 19th birthday. So there are exceptions to the rule, but that's our general age range is 6 to 18.
Got some exclusives from
Yeah.
guys,
Can you tell me some of your challenges too?
Sure. So I mean, in just sort of like a general sense with the work, it's a very there's a lot of crises that erupt, and it's very intensive work, so we do a lot of work around making sure that our staff are supported, have opportunities for, debriefing if there's a critical incident that happens. We provide a lot of training to our staff as well, and different, activities just for, fun and opportunities for staff to just, enjoy themselves as well. I would say, as an agency, staffing is always sort of an ongoing challenge. Actually, right now we're in a really good position, so I don't want to I don't want to jinx that. But over the pandemic, we lost a lot of staff. It was really hard to recruit, and as we said, the need has been greater than ever. So that's certainly always kind of a challenge. And then working with larger systems that provide funding to our services, making sure that we're being compensated appropriately for the work that we're doing. And it's such an investment to, fund this work, because it really ends up saving money for everyone, for the state, for the taxpayer, for the department and other systems. So I would say those are probably just kind of the major obstacles that could come up.
And hearing about all these great things and all the wonderful work that Tides Family Services is doing, how can the community and individuals or volunteers get involved with helping you to support the mission?
So I would say, a really small way is just to kind of follow us on social media. We have Instagram and Facebook, and that gives an overview of all of the work that we're doing. There's, staff and client highlights. It talks about our programming. So just for people to familiarize themselves with this service that is so, it's embedded in every community, and a lot of people don't really know that it's out there until they themselves are in crisis and need to access something. So I think that would be one small way that people could do something. There's always volunteer opportunities as well. You could reach out to our main office for anything related to that, if you wanted to come in and volunteer, or just kind of see what we do and see what the work is. And then of course, donations are always accepted. We're always looking for grants, and we're always looking for ways that we can supplement the work that we're doing to work with the families. So to put on different community engagement activities and things like that.
It's been great to meet you and hear about all the work you do. We hear the Tides name here a lot.
Yep. We are definitely very present in the East Bay. So we have a lot of families. We do a lot of work on the island, as some people say.
I'm not from the island, so
Yep.
I don't quite understand the island mentality, but yes, we hear about it a lot. But it's been nice to hear more about it, because we just hear about Tides kind of in passing.
Right.
From some colleagues, I think, that go to meetings with you, or you attend.
Yes.
So this has been wonderful.
Good. I'm so glad.
Can you provide contact information for those who want to get either involved with Tides or need that crisis hotline?
Yes, I will. Yep. So that I'll give you our website, because that has the the office locations, phone numbers, and everything. So our website, and it also has job openings listed on there as well. So that's certainly, we're hiring in several different programs. So if people are looking, they should definitely head over to our website. So the website is www.tidesfs.org. And that provides, other additional links and contact on there. Our main office number is 401-822-1360. So that would be like general inquiries if you need, if you had questions about any fund development or any kinds of, volunteer opportunities, you would call that number. And then the Children's Mobile Crisis number, this is an emergency line 24/7, is 401-615-9374.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
This has been an awesome time. Thank you very much for enlightening us on
Yeah, of course. I'm happy to. Thank you for asking. And it's been great.
You have a great rest of your day.
You as well. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.